If you remember in last episode, I mentioned a few times that if you noticed those red wires coming out of the bar, you would have to wait for this episode to see what they go to. Well, I guess the wait is over. This is what they go to. Ta-da! Welcome to Project Renegade Episode 7. This is always a way I like to start an episode, with a box. Let's see what's in it. Well, it looks like 3 small boxes. They all look pretty much the same. And some wire. Wonder what those could be. Let's take a look. These are the lights. Open one up and show them. This is them with the cover on from Rugged Ridge. And if I can get this cover off, this is them without the cover. We're going to have 3 of these going on the front of Project Renegade. They are 100 watts each. So if we have 3 of those at 100 watts each, we're going to be looking at about 25 amps. So that's going to be a lot of power. So, if we're going to have lights, that means we're going to have wiring and a switch. See, I've already got a light in there, which still isn't bright enough, so I guess we'll grab another light. And I'll show you what we're going to have to do first. Oh, it's right there. Oh, that's horrible lighting, but what we're going to do is take this panel off here. Because let's face it, if you're going to have a switch, why just have one? I mean, who wants one switch? And down here is this little pocket that never gets used for anything. So when I pop this out, I think this pocket is part of this panel. So I'm going to pop this out, and we're actually going to do some modifications to this panel, and we're going to make a switch panel across here so we can have multiple switches if we want. So yeah, I'll find somewhere to set you up and try to pull this out, and hopefully you can see it. Okay, hopefully we've got enough light in here. I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of how this comes out. There's a screw way back in here. They always hide at least one screw on these panels, so you sit here and yank on them all day long just to get frustrated, and then you end up breaking them, and then you have to go back to the dealership to buy new ones. Got that out, and then you need to put your key in, turn your key forward, and you need to get it out of park so you have plenty of room. Make sure you have your wheels chalked, otherwise you are going to roll away. Then it should just be a bunch of just like push-in clips and stuff. from there. See, it's good. That's why these are plastic, because if that was metal, I would have just scratched the crap out of that. Okay, now it's time to unplug some wires. Not quite sure if I remember how this vacuum assembly comes off of here. If this vacuum comes off, I imagine it has to. This is as far as I've pulled it apart before, because I had to repair some stuff on the radio. There we go. Still had vacuum. Okay, and we got the part out that we need. Okay, but this will be the piece that we're going to work with. Little rubber tray in there that I didn't notice. I've got to formulate a plan on what exactly I'm going to do. I think I want to keep where this one bolt was, you know, just kind of helps hold it in. I mean, these clips do a fairly decent job at holding it in, but the main reason for the bolt right here is for when you plug in and unplug stuff from your cigarette lighter. Have you ever had, you know, some accessory that you plugged into your cigarette lighter and they're extremely hard to pull out? That bolt is in there, and that's why it's right there next to it. So when you go to pull that hard accessory out of there, it doesn't pop this panel loose. What I was originally planning on doing was basically cutting all of this out and then putting a new panel in the front. I think I'm just going to cut a section out here for the wiring and then make a panel in the front, but then I've still got to find a way to get to that screw. So when I get all that figured out, I guess we'll be back. I cut out paper template. I'm going to lay it on here and basically trace it out, and then I'll overcut it so I can sit here and fine tune it. I've got just a rough shape cut out. Now I'm going to go in with a little sanding wand and just kind of finely tune it. As you can see, I've put some painter's tape on here so I don't scratch up the back of it, or actually the front of it. I've laid out, I don't know if you can see them or not, but laid out a couple marks. I'm going to go ahead and cut the back of this thing open. Well, now I'm just going to take the sander to it and clean that up a little bit. It's getting there. Just needs some fine tuning, I guess. We'll keep working at it. Alright, we're going to take a break from the panel for a second, and then we're going to go over here and focus on doing some wiring, getting all the wiring ran for the switch. I'll get some of that on tape for you. Going to go through with the multimeter and make sure that we've got everything hooked up so we don't catch anything on fire, blow a bunch of fuses, do any of that fun stuff. Alright, hopefully we got you set up where you can see. I'm going to turn on a multimeter for DC. And we're going to find a good ground, which I already know this is a good ground here on the plug for the cigarette lighter. This is power. The ground, so I'm just going to stick the ground down in there where it'll stick. And I did some reading, so for my illumination, basically so that my switches light up at night when I turn on my dash lights, there's a separate LED at the bottom of the switch that'll light up and tell you what the switch does, so you can see the switches at night. So from what I've read, it's supposed to be this wire here. So what we'll do is I'm going to reach over here and turn on the dash lights. Let's see. We had power. Hey, this is we have 11 volts. It's not a whole lot, but I guess that's adequate for dash lighting. Turn them off. Yeah, it goes to 0. The only other thing that we need to test, which I'm pretty sure already, is to make sure that the cigarette lighter has power. Cigarette lighter does have power. Okay, has another unprofessional test here. We know that this one's power, and it's going to be our trigger wire. I've got our relay and everything already wired up. And what we're going to do is trigger the relay. I've got a camera set out there. You might be able to hear it on this camera. I mean, you're not going to see anything because it's a relay. But I've got a camera out there under the hood pointed down at the relay, just so you can hear the relay kick on. Nothing's going to happen with the wires that I've got hanging out of the bar because there's no fuse. So there's no power actually going out anywhere from the relay. All this is just the relay, the coil inside the relay actuating. I don't know if you can hear that in here, but you should definitely be able to hear it out there. That means the relay is functioning. The next thing we can do, I can put a fuse in and hook the multimeter up to one of the wires out there and see when we actuate the relay to see if we have power. I just put a fuse in the line out there, so the relay should actually put out power. I've got all the wires except for one taped off, and I've got it alligator clipped, you know, the little plastic alligator clips. I don't have any in here to show you. Clipped to the multimeter, and the multimeter grounded, and another camera out there facing the multimeter. So it should be reading 0 right now, or most of the time it's 0.0 something or other, you know, it's always like that. But when I actuate this, we should get power. Here's a free tip for you. Whenever you're doing any work, electrical work on a vehicle where you're going to be using a multimeter or anything, or not even necessarily a multimeter, but anytime you're going to be doing long periods of testing or hooking things up to the electrical system on a vehicle, it's always a good idea to have some form of battery charger or battery conditioner, which is what this actually is. Because this is, I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it's a fairly new battery. And I got this you can get this at Harbor Freight. Just plug it in, hook it up to your battery, and it won't charge the battery. It basically just keeps the battery where it's at. So while you're doing all of your testing and hooking things up, it's not sucking juice from the battery. It's basically sucking juice from this little battery conditioner. And if you notice, I didn't even use the wiring harness. I didn't even open the wiring harness that comes with the lights. I make my own. I mean, I've got spare harnesses and stuff all over the place, you know, that come with lights and stuff, and I never use them. I mean, I've always got, most of you have seen, you know, just my little bit of wire that I've got here. But, I mean, I've got multiple rolls and spools of wire. I always pretty much make my own, so I know how it's made, and if something goes wrong, it's easier for me to troubleshoot what went wrong because I built it. And it's always good to have, you know, a complete bolt-on, you know, plug-and-play wiring harness laying around. Because, you know, say one of your buddies comes over and says, hey man, you know, can you wire up these new lights that I bought? They didn't come with a harness or anything, and then I figured you could hook them up for me. Well, if you don't feel like hooking anything up that day, you can just go over to your bin, grab one of those pre-made wiring harnesses, and go, here you go. just wire this up. It's all, or just basically plug this in so you don't have to mess with it. Just give them that harness so you don't have to screw around with their junk. Let's do a quick little test fit with these lights. There we go. That's the only view you're going to get for now until I get them all hooked up. Alright, got them all wired up and mounted on there. They haven't been adjusted or anything. I've just turned them on once to test them. You guys don't get to see that yet because I'm waiting until I get the switch panel finished. You get to see it all together. But as of right now, I don't think they look too bad. I used a little bit of wire loom on the backs here to try to kind of keep everything nice and neat. We just had a package arrive. Big box, really light, so let's see what's in it. This is probably something that I didn't mention that I was going to do. I just saw it on sale. I'll switch over to the rubberized stubby antenna. I guess we'll throw that on here in a minute. Let's see. This should be a little mini voltmeter that's going to go in with our switches. I figured I would put it all the way over here on the end, and that would be the one that would allow us to get to this screw back here. Let's get you set up and let's just go ahead and put this antenna on. Alright, let's take the stock one off. It looks like it's going to be this biggest one. I think it looks pretty cool. I finally got my switches and a little digital voltmeter. Just regular old 5-pin switches. Got this one that's going to be for the lights, and then I'm going to have this one hooked up to turn on the voltmeter. There it is. Got the 2 switches and my voltmeter. Got everything in there. The glue, or the adhesive, is somewhat set up. I'm just kind of waiting for it to completely harden. I don't know if you can tell, but I taped off all around here and just sprayed the whole thing flat black, just so it doesn't stick out so much. I've actually already got it all wired up and ready to go. We're ready to put this back together. First thing we need to do is connect up all of our preset wires here. Like this is for all of the illumination. This is for all of the power. And this one is for the ground. I need to plug in our trigger wire to our switch. And then I've got to try to wiggle this back in here. I'm going to try to get it past the camera. But we are going to plug all of our heater control stuff back in. Try not to pull too tight on any of the new wires that I've installed. Can't decide if I want to do it like that. And lastly, the cigarette lighter. should be able to get this in here and just snap it. Yeah, there we go. Here's a second free tip. If you're trying to put a bolt in back through there like that and you're worried that it's going to fall out, you know, as you're trying to put it way back there, it's going to fall out like I just dropped it over there. Here's a little tip for you. Take a little piece of black tape, stick it over top of your socket, then take your bolt and press it down in. What that does is just makes it fit a lot tighter, and it actually holds your bolt or your screw on there. Now we're going to try to look way back in here. And most of the time, your black tape will come back with your socket. If not, it's just a piece of black tape floating around in there. Now, let's make sure this is the right side up. Snap it back in. There we go. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, if I can get some light in here where you can see. I left enough space for another switch if I add one in the future. Let's see what it looks like when we turn all the dash lights on. It lights up the bottom part of the switch. Then when you turn on the switch, it lights up that part of the switch. And you turn on it, lights up the other one. I just wanted to show you one more view here. I've got my shop light in here, but all of the lights off in the garage. So let's turn on our gauge lights. Let's see if I can get you down here. You can see that they light up. Turn those on, and then there's the voltmeter. Pretty well visible. I'm going to turn on the lights that I mounted on the front, and keep in mind I haven't adjusted them or anything. They're just bolted on there for right now, so they could be pointed at the ceiling for all I know. This is my first time seeing them in the dark too, so it looks like they need adjustment a little bit. That's those compared to factory headlights. Okay, this is going to be the first startup to see what the voltmeter actually says. Turn it on, and we're going to start it. Hey, we know our voltmeter's good. It changes when I turn the lights on. Dropped it a little bit, but the alternator picked it back up. Cool. Well, I'm going to back this out a little bit. I'm going to try to point the lights somewhat. Sorry about the wind. It's very, very cold and windy out here. I just kind of did a pattern. The headlights are somewhere in here, and the lights are adjusted somewhere in there. But there's a better full view of what it looks like with everything on the front. I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. One of these episodes we'll take it out for a nighttime drive and see what they look like and actually do the final adjustment on them. I'll have to use a different camera or find a different camera, because these little cameras that I use, they're okay cameras if you have a lot of light, but you can't film anything when it's remotely dark with these things. Like, I'm not even sure how bright it's going to look in here right now. I mean, it's bright enough for me to see everything, but through the camera, it probably looks really, really dark in here. These things just do not do well with low light. So that'll be in a future episode. So that's the end of episode 7. And if you like these projects, or if you like any of my other videos, I try to upload something at least once a week. So if you like anything that you see on my channel and you want to keep up to date on it, make sure to like my videos, comment on the videos, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.